Happy Wednesday, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of Trading the Markets. Of course, we're joined by Kris Bullock, aka Blastoplas. This is the show where we take a look and see what's going on in the market, see what we can sift through that chaos or make sense of that chaos. And of course, take any questions that you guys have live. So if you have any questions, drop them in the live chat on X or on platform. And of course, this is Trading the Market. So sometimes there are trades that come across and we want to take them and we want to talk about them. So we have a couple of those for you today as well. But let's start with Bitcoin and crypto and see what that's doing. Kris, happy Wednesday. Over to you, my friend. How are you?
Doing well, thank you. Happy Wednesday, yes. So crypto is not awesome at the moment, basically. Bitcoin is rolling over, which I have talked about is a likely scenario. And really what I'm looking for at this point in time is, do we double bottom here? Do we set a higher low, or do we break down and go lower? Those are kind of the three scenarios and that are going to tell us really what we have in store going forward. I continue to maintain that this flush out was an epic sort of historical flush out. You know, we saw all of these major momentum indicators at sort of historic cycle lows and things like that. So it's definitely still oversold. However, you know, outside of this first initial bounce, it remains pretty anemic. It basically bounced off the 10-day moving average and has rolled back over again. So this could just, like I said, this still just could be a bottoming pattern for this flush, just kind of one more double tap and then we bounce. But we don't really know. I'm not super optimistic, I'll say that, but we'll see how it goes. So really, like I said, what I'm looking for is, do we sort of set a low that's higher than this previous low here? Do we effectively set a higher low and bounce from there? To me, that's probably the most bullish scenario, I think, in this current situation. You know, versus double bottoming or even going lower. I do ultimately think that we will go lower still, whether it's right now in this current sort of action, or if it, you know, happens next month or whatever, sometime between now and then. I think the odds are better than most that we actually do go lower than this previous low here at 59,000. So I'm not optimistic overall. I think just in a larger, broader sort of regime, we're still very much in a risk-off environment with crypto, especially. And so I'm not saying buy right now. I'm not saying crypto is going to, you know, it's bottomed and it's time to go. There are a couple of good cryptos, which I'll get into in a second. But as far as Bitcoin goes and the broader crypto market as a whole, I'm not looking at this as a buying opportunity just yet. Like I said, even if we do get a bounce, I don't think it's going to be a big bounce. I don't think it's going to be all-time highs from here on or anything like that. I think if anything, it's just going to be, maybe we come back up and sort of reclaim this area here in the mid 80s and then roll over again. That's really kind of the most optimistic scenario I can see in this current environment. So yeah, it really, in the end, it's like, it doesn't matter if it sets a higher low or not. It's like, even if it does, it's just going to go up a little bit and it's just going to be a short-term trade and it's back down again. So I think if you're waiting for the low, if you're sitting on the sidelines with cash or whatever, you know, just keep tight, sit tight for now. Like, now is not the time to buy, I don't think. And so just be patient. Now, there are a couple of other crypto assets that have unique narratives that are doing well. One of them is Hyperliquid, which we've talked about a fair bit. Yes, granted, it had a decent little retrace, you know, over the last week or so, but it still remains strong. Its narrative still remains strong. It's basically now the place to go for crypto degens, if you will, to trade commodities on chain. If they want to trade gold and silver perpetual swaps and stuff on chain, Hyperliquid is the place to go to do that. And we know that gold and silver is still doing well after its retrace, and it still ultimately has upside. So Hyperliquid continues to benefit from that, and I think that they will. And then the other crypto, not surprisingly, is just PaxG, like I've been talking about, which is effectively just gold, tokenized gold. It is in an uptrend against the dollar, and it is also well in an uptrend against Bitcoin in particular. So really, if you want to stay in crypto and you want to kind of hedge your portfolio a little bit within crypto, I think that having some allocation to, you know, Pax Gold and Hyperliquid probably are your best bets. Now, keep in mind, Hyperliquid is going to be volatile in that scenario. Like, Pax Gold is really a safe haven right now for crypto. Like if you want to just de-risk your whole portfolio or part of it, just put it in Pax Gold, honestly, for right now. But if you still want a little bit of action on the side, some exposure to Hyperliquid, I think is really where the most attention is at this moment. So other than that, crypto's pretty lame right now, honestly.
Yeah, lame indeed, Kris. So now I did a little bit of research with AI the other day on Hyperliquid. Now I want to throw this out to the rest of the community. So correct me if I'm wrong, or just double check my research, because I'm not sure if I did the right prompt or what I was getting. But basically, through my research, I found that Hyperliquid, both spot and their perps trading, is essentially doing the same volume as Coinbase, which kind of blew my mind, to be completely honest with you. And then I got to thinking, what if, I mean, I guess Coinbase does technically have a coin in it, is that their stock. But what if Coinbase actually had a coin like Hyperliquid where they used fees and then they bought back and burned the token? How bullish would the whole market be on that coin? And then that got me to thinking that Hyperliquid is extremely undervalued still, just based off of that. But I could be wrong on that volume. So guys, just double check and correct that if it is mistaken there.
I've heard that as well. That I saw those same numbers, and I think that you're absolutely right. I think Hyperliquid is still wildly undervalued, especially like people are comparing it to Robinhood and other places like that as well, and significantly less market cap than all of those. And so, yeah, I do wonder what would happen if Coinbase launched a token for their base chain. I don't know that they will. I don't think they will, but that could be an interesting sort of competitor in that sense.
Yeah, they said they weren't. When Brace was first launched, they said there won't be a coin for it. But I think over the years, I think that is softened a little bit. So I guess we'll see how that works. Now, Kris, we talked about this as well. You kind of you were pretty much almost spot on with how Bitcoin would roll over, and that we weren't out of the weeds yet. Now, you did talk about that we could potentially fill the gap and then roll over again. Do you still see that happening before we go lower, or are you kind of thinking this is that moment and the chance to fill the gap has passed?
The CME gap you're referring to? Yeah. So that's right here. Let me highlight it real quick, just so that it's clear. So this gap right here is what you're referring to, basically. Correct. on the CME exchange. And it goes all the way to the bottom of the candle body, which is around 84,000. So the deal with CME gaps is it's funny. Really, technically, it's just a psychological thing more than anything. But over Bitcoin's entire history, like 99% of all the CME gaps have filled at some point. The thing is, they don't have to fill right away. Like sometimes they don't fill for 6 months, so I'm pretty confident I think we can both agree that there's no way that Bitcoin is never going above 84,000 again, so that's not really a thing. It's more just a matter of when and not if. And yeah, I think at this point, it's like if it was going to fill immediately, it probably would have filled by now. So yeah, I think you're right. The odds are that it continues further down before ultimately going back up again. And I don't think this CME gap here isn't proving to be as much of an immediate draw as some others are. And so we shall see. But yeah.
We shall. All right. While we're still on Bitcoin, I want to take this question from the Hog Doctor. Love the username, Dr. Hog. So I realized, yeah, great name. So I realized this isn't a TA question really, but any thoughts on what it would theoretically take for Bitcoin to sustainably rebound? For example, CPI print surprising to the downside this Friday. Fed needs to actually lower rates. Banking regulation changes, making it easier for private banks to access credit, and so on. So I guess what are your thoughts on what it would realistically take or theoretically take for Bitcoin to rebound sustainably?
Well, it's funny. You almost answered the question within the question, and the answer is all of that. Basically, right. It's going to require the fountain to be turned back on. All of that money coming in through the banking system, lower interest rates, like you said, just money flowing in from overseas markets, into Bitcoin and things like that. Yeah, it's just going to take like a full on sort of regime change. Also, the Fed coming in, the new Fed coming in and sort of implementing the changes he's going to make. Um, yeah, I mean, like I said, it's going to take a little while for all of this to kick into gear. The right things are happening. We are seeing the economy expanding, and that's really the important point. Is things are moving in the right direction. We are seeing the key indicators that we need to see. But we're still early in all of this in terms of like this economic structural change, and so it's not going to happen overnight. And until that changes, I think crypto is going to continue to bleed out, really. And like I said, I don't think we're going to have like a year-long bear market. That's not my base case. I still think we're looking at maybe a Q2 sometime bottoming pattern to form, and then it runs up from there. But it's going to take a while. Also the Clarity Act that I think is going to, not that in and of itself is going to change everything overnight, but it needs to be in place. Like there's all these things that sort of need to be in place in order for good things to happen. None of them are going to change anything on their own, but they all need to be in place for this to reverse. And so we're seeing that slowly unfold right now.
Right. Thank you for the question, Hog Doctor. So before we move on to some of the trades we were talking about offline, I want to take this last question while we're still on crypto from Mustafa Famar. Apologies if I'm butchering that one. So the old favorites, Sol and Sui, have gone down 60 to 80%. Any relief coming there?
It's funny. I don't even need to look at the chart to tell you the answer is no. And the reason for that is just because all of crypto basically is risk off right now. So if Bitcoin can't catch a bid, really nothing else is, unless it has a very specific, unique narrative like Hyperliquid, And again, really the only reason Hyperliquid is doing well is because it's capitalizing on the hot commodity thing that's going on right now. The fact that everybody is trading gold and silver and precious metals, Hyperliquid is capitalizing on that. So that's really the only reason why Hyperliquid is doing well. Were it not for that, they'd be lumped in with all this other stuff. So it's not a fundamental issue with Ethereum or Solana or any of these other blockchain projects. It's just crypto as an asset class the liquidity conditions aren't favorable enough for money to be coming into that. It's too far out the risk curve. And so they're all going to be going down no matter what. And so what I just said about the economic conditions needing to change applies to Solana and Ethereum just as it does to Bitcoin. And until all of that changes, no, there's no relief in sight, basically, is the short answer. I know it's not the answer anybody wants to hear, but that should tell you, okay, I need to be doing something about this as opposed to just kind of bumming out over it, right. This means it's time to take action. It's time to hedge your portfolio. It's time to rotate into safer assets. It's time to get into, sit on the sidelines with some cash, whatever you need to do. But don't just kind of take that information as, oh, okay, well, I guess, I guess it's all over for me now kind of thing, I just see it. I'm not saying you're gonna, but I just see a lot of people doing that. And I just want to stress that you can avoid this. You can do things to sort of mitigate this situation for you. And so now is the time to be thinking along those lines.
Well said, Kris. Well said. So now speaking of mitigating mitigating these risks, having your hand in that fortune, if you will. Let's talk about some trades that you were looking at as well. So, and it's no surprise that it's in the AI space. We have been talking about AI for quite some time. You have that, basket of a watch list that you have on TradingView as well. So talk us through some of the AI plays that you've made recently.
So one of them that came up on the Monday show and has been kind of, bubbling below the surface for a little bit is Palantir. And Palantir, has taken a bit of a beating over the last really month or so. And that's because primarily Palantir is on the surface a software company. And so, and as we know, software companies in particular have really been, have lost favor because of all of the advancements in AI and in coding and things like that. And so the idea being, well, if I can replicate all of the software with simple AI coding. Why do I need all these big SaaS companies like Adobe and Salesforce and, all of these, whatever. And so like big legacy software, like software as a service companies have been just on the decline ever since then because of really the advancements in AI. And Palantir got lumped in with that bunch. But I think what's happening, we're seeing here is Palantir is now very oversold. And also it's kind of people are coming to the realization that while Palantir is technically a software company, it's not the same. It's not the same as your Adobe or your Salesforce. It's much more like, think of it like an AI operating system that a big corporation can use to, eliminate inefficiencies and optimize their workflow and things like that within their companies. So people are now seeing it as more of an AI play than just a software play. And so that's what's kind of causing a little bit of a rebound. On top of that, they've put out earnings reports recently. Basically, their revenue is, 130% up 130% year on year. Major growth, major like backlogs, order backlogs for basically all their products. In other words, they're killing it right now. And so I saw this, last week, and I'm like, I really think this is oversold. I think that this is probably a good buy. Now, granted, it is down the last couple of days, and it bounced off of its 10-day moving average, but it remains, I think a hot play. And I think once more people kind of come around to the idea of it, we're going to see this bounce, and we're going to see this kind of recover this trend that it's in. And I think that it will be a solid play going forward, really.
Yeah, and just from the looks of the chart, you have as good of an entry as you will get over the last several months as well. And one thing I like about, or what interests me about Palantir, is they are primed to just basically have a monopoly on government contracts as well, which is something that may not show in the chart, but it's definitely something that is very likely for them, or a possibility for them, which is also an interesting play in there.
Yeah. I think, again, the thing that I really want to stress that I really look for with a lot of these AI stocks is, do they have a multi-year backlog? Like, is there sort of quote unquote scarcity within the service that they provide? And in Palantir's case, absolutely they do. It's absolutely confirmed. You can look at their financials and see a multi-year backlog, basically. And so to me, it's always a buy in that case with AI plays right now.
All right. So guys, go check out Palantir, see what you see. Let us know what you guys think of Palantir. Kris, you have something else. You have another AI play that you were interested in as well. What's that one?
Yes. So this one is, it's called Vertiv Holdings, and Vertiv is it's kind of like a picks and shovels play for AI data centers. So what Vertiv does is they provide like power and cooling and infrastructure for server racks, essentially, and GPUs and things like that. So we know data centers are booming. We know that there's tons of expansion. There's basically lots of new servers being put up every single day. And because of this, all of those servers, all of those GPUs all need cooling, like massive cooling needs, to keep all this stuff operating. And that's where Vertiv comes in, because they're sort of the industry leader in that place. And they basically just reported yesterday, I think, massive, like 250% year-on-year orders up, basically. Their backlog doubled. Their guidance, doubled, basically, all this stuff. So like, they're doing extremely well. And they're, again, one of the main players in all of that. So as a result of this earnings report, their stock is up 18% today. You can see huge gap up from just yesterday. It closed at $2 and it's up around 236 right now. It actually peaked around 250 earlier in the day. So they're another one that's going to continue to do well. And yes, it's a big gap right now. And, maybe don't jump on this right away. It's maybe going to give some of this back. But the fact remains, this is going to continue to be a solid play. This is another one with years-long backlogs. This is another, I love these picks and shovels plays with all this AI right now. I think this is where it is. Like, a lot of people I know are focused on the Mag 7 and the big hyperscalers and stuff like that. But that, to me, that trade is overcrowded and kind kind of boring and a little bit overcooked. I think if you get into the weeds a little bit and look at the companies that are actually providing the hardware for all of this AI build out, that's where the action is right now. Like hardware and scarcity, whether it's in semiconductors, whether it's in IT infrastructure, whether it's in metals like silver and copper that are very much industrial metals, that are used in the build out of all of these chips and things like that. All of that is extremely just backlogged, and so yeah, those are the plays to me, and Vertiv and Palantir both fall right into that mix, and I think that they will both continue to do well.
Yeah, I thought there's a couple of pieces of great alpha in what you just said there, Kris. One in terms of how to identify and research AI projects. Thought it was very interesting. It's not just about like what they're building and all of that, but looking at the backlogs of the actual work that they have, I think is a very valuable piece of information that people can help themselves identify what's good, what could last. And then last, like zig when others are zagging, right? Everyone's going to be investing in NVIDIA and Google. But look at the things that the NVIDIAs and the Googles are going to need to actually work. And those have a great upside into them that not many people are looking into. So just very valuable pieces of alpha on trading the markets, as always. Kris, that's going to do it for us today. We'll be back next Wednesday. Live TA in Discord. That's normally on Mondays. Will be moved to Tuesday for President's Day. So we'll see you there on Tuesday as well. Kris, we have to not fuck it up this weekend, right? Or going into this weekend until we see you again. What is your best advice in the not fuck it up mantra that you can give us?
Well, like I said, kind of take action if you need to. Like we know that Bitcoin and crypto is not done going down. If you need to sort of counteract that, if you need to move into other asset classes, if you need to move into cash, if you need to move into gold, it's not too late, basically. The bottom is not in with crypto yet, and there's still going to be another month or 2 or 3, if not more. So just kind of accept that.
Yeah, you can either accept watching your portfolio go straight down, or you can hedge yourself a little bit, because we just saw on the show it's going to continue to go down for a little bit of time. So keep that in mind, guys. Don't fuck this up. We'll be in the Discord if you have any questions or you just want to chat through some things. The Hive Mind is a buzzing right now, just figuring out all the different ways they can hedge, they can trade, and everything in between. So until then, everyone, we will see you all. Have a great rest of your week, and don't fuck this up.